There is something which I really love about politics. That in politics, there are no permanent enemies and there are no permanent friends. It's all about interest. If you are serving my interest today, then you become my friend. If you no longer serve my interest today, then tomorrow you become my enemy. And I like using the case of three gentlemen, President Uhuru Kenyatta, Raila Odinga, and the Deputy President William Samoei Ruto. And sometimes also I like using the NASA case to explain this. When Uhuru Kenyatta needed the support of the Deputy President William Samoei Ruto, he ensured Ruto became his greatest ally. He did that despite the fact that the Deputy President was one of the most hated individuals by the Kikuyu community after the PEV of 2007. And when now the Deputy President is not serving his interest, the DP is now one of his greatest enemies. Raila Odinga is today an ally of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Not because of any other thing, I'm sure, because Raila Odinga is now serving the interest of President Uhuru Kenyatta. That's one thing which I really love about politics. Take, for example, the case of NASA. When Kalonzo Musyoka was not endorsed by Moi Kibaki, he came to Raila Odinga, a man he left at the hour of need in 2007, and formed CORD coalition. But when Raila Odinga now wanted to enter into an arrangement with the President Uhuru Kenyatta, he realized that Kalonzo Musyoka was not going to help serve that interest. So he left alone. So that's the best thing with politics. It's purely about interest. And with the way, this enemy in politics is not the usual enemies, you know. These guys still dine together. They make phone calls to each other, but politically, they are enemies. But one thing I've failed to understand today, and this is why I'm coming up with this topic. One thing I've failed to understand is why, when the Deputy President William Ruto, for example, worked with Mzee Moi, I read this, someone was questioning. When Mzee Moi was alive and he worked very closely with the Deputy President, then by the time they parted ways, the former president didn't even want to meet with his deputy. Uhuru Kenyatta, we are all seeing, was a very good friend of the Deputy President. They worked together. But today, I'm not sure whether Uhuru and Ruto can actually share a room together. These guys hate each other. And that the person was also telling me that Raila Odinga also parted ways, worked with the Deputy President, and then parted ways with the DP. And up to today, they are still enemies. I'm doing this because I know in politics, there are no permanent enemies. There's a possibility that the interest of Raila Odinga and the interest of William Samoei Ruto can be served by these two gentlemen coming together. Because we all know, as things stand today, there are only two or three serious presidential candidates for 2022 elections. I know the former Prime Minister has not declared that he's going to run. But as far as I am concerned, he's among the top contenders. Then there is William Ruto, who has declared. Then I can see clearly that Musalia Mudavadi is also charting his own path for the presidency. So we have those three. But what are the options for Raila Odinga? What are the options for the Deputy President, William Samoei Ruto? Because I want to believe that if these two guys can come together, then that is going to be a sure bet. But what are the options for Raila Odinga? He has not declared that he's going to run. In my view, Raila has two options. For now, before we go into why I believe the combination of Raila and Ruto will deliver the presidency. The first options for Raila Odinga is to run for the presidency. And this is what most of his allies and supporters are demanding for. They believe he now has a chance because he's being supported by the system. They believe that Raila Odinga's victory has always been stolen. And now that he's working with President Uhuru Kenyatta, then Uhuru Kenyatta can enable the system to help him be declared the president of the Republic of Kenya. So that's the first option. But if he will not be running for the presidency, the second option for Raila Odinga is to support someone. And in this case, I'm assuming that Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta agreed to work together, but both of them are likely not to run for the presidency. So Uhuru will propose someone, Raila will propose someone, then they'll reach an agreement that now this is the guy we are going to front. Then wewe unaenda Gatundu, wewe unaenda Bondo, but this case we are going to ensure that we guide the country. So that's the other option. Raila Odinga has only those two options. Because I'm not sure whether if Raila Odinga won't run today in 2022, then he can run in 2027. But for William Ruto, at least for him, he still has around 4 options in my view. And the first option for him is to run for the presidency, whether he's going to win or whether he's going to lose. He doesn't have a choice. We know the system. If the deputy president is going to run for the presidency today without the support of the system, he's going to lose. And I know he is also well aware of that. We've seen him being defeated in parliament, in Senate, and again on second, we are waiting again to see how it's going to unfold at the National Assembly. So his first option is to run, whether he's going to lose or he's going to win. But you normally expect the worst result. If he loses, then again, he can still run in 2022. So that's the first option for him. The second option for the DP is to support someone else. Under this, we are going to assume President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga are going to decide, okay, let's support someone else. Say even Fred Matiang'i. Or Uhuru Kenyatta decides not to throw his weight behind Raila Amolo Odinga. So if those two scenarios are going to happen, then the DP might decide that I'm not going to run because the system is fully against me. So he can do that. The third option for him is to opt not to run. Because if you ask me, everything, the system is all prepared to stop the deputy president, William Samoei Ruto. He's actually in a situation where Raila Odinga was in 2007 and 2013. Where he was the clear favorite, but the system was determined to block him. So the DP can decide to opt out of the race so that he doesn't burn himself out, so that he doesn't lose the elections. Then he can prepare now for 2027 when everything shall have changed. Then the third option, the fourth option for me, which is the most viable for the DP, is to support Raila Amolo Odinga for the presidency in 2022. Assuming Uhuru decides to front Raila Odinga, get the backing of the system, the DP will of course run and Raila will defeat him. But assuming we're in a situation where the deputy president, why President Uhuru Kenyatta now decides to support, say, Gideon Moi for the presidency in 2022, then Raila Odinga and his team decides to bolt out because they are betrayed. And because the deputy president understands that if he runs and Raila runs, the system gets someone else. For example, if Uhuru can succeed in convincing the Kikuyus to support Gideon Moi, then the chances of the deputy president Raila Odinga winning against the system will also be very limited, because the DP shall have lost Central Kenya and a bit of Rift Valley. Raila, without the backing of the system, is going to be difficult. So these two guys can decide to combine forces to run on a ticket. And in that ticket, the only person who can contest as the presidential candidate is Raila Amolo Odinga. I'm saying this because if Raila won't run, then it's going to complicate things. But by Raila Odinga running, the DP will be well aware that Raila Odinga term is coming to an end. And if he wins that seat, then he can take over, and then he shall have mended fences with a particular voting bloc, so that by 2027, the DP can easily now contest. But why am I saying that this is a sure bet? 4 reasons. Number one, politics is all about numbers. Even if the system is to rig you today, you must be perceived to be having the numbers. Take the case of 2007. In 2007, we had only 2 tribes winning the presidency. And for them to win that, a perception had to be created that the Kalenjin votes and the Kikuyu votes were enough to take anybody or to deliver victory, regardless of other tribes. And Mutahi Ngunyi was assigned that assignment, which he did perfectly well. So when Uhuru and Ruto were declared the winners, courtesy of computer system, of algorithm, which was planted in the IBC servers by Davis Chirchir. And probably this is why these guys are very bitter with the president. At least there was that perception that they had the numbers. So Raila Odinga and William Ruto, today, if they decide to combine forces, the first thing they'll bring is the numbers. Of course, it's real numbers. Ile numbers ya kubatisha. So that's the first thing which will happen. They'll have the numbers. So even if someone was planning to rig them, he must really think on how that plan can be executed. That's number 1. Number 2 is the Kikuyu factors. I'm saying this, that Kikuyu factor can also help Raila Odinga and William Ruto ticket to win the presidency. For so many reasons. Let me just give you a brief one. Raila Odinga, in the last election, got certain number of support from the central Kenya. I know there are members from central Kenya who would have voted for Raila Odinga were it not the fact that one of their son, Uhuru Kenyatta, was running. So those numbers Raila got, if you add them together, because of all these other presidential candidates in Kenya, no any other presidential candidate has ever received the number of votes Raila Odinga always get from central Kenya, despite the fact that they've always had their candidates. So Ruto currently has the support of the Kikuyu community. So if it comes to support Raila Odinga, of course, majority of them will leave. But still, he has certain number which is going to retain. So Raila Odinga will retain that his block from central Kenya. William Ruto is also going to retain that his block, although majority will go. Then if they combine this, then at least they increase the percentage from central Kenya. So the central Kenya factor is going to play a big role also in delivering this. So that even if Gideon Moi will be running against Raila Odinga, for example, then he will get certain percentage from central Kenya, even if it's high, but not as high than if Raila and Ruto were to run. Number 3 is the system. We know in this country, clearly, the presidency is determined by a group of people called the system. And the only reason why the system will not allow Raila Odinga and William Ruto to work together is because of the fear. The system cannot handle those two gentlemen together. That's why they're working very hard to keep Ruto that side and to keep Raila Odinga this side. But if these guys can betray Raila Odinga the other side, and they've also betrayed William Ruto the other side, then if these two guys combine forces, it will be a big headache for the system, and the system might decide to give up. We are going to find ourselves in a situation like what we were in when Moi Kibaki was elected as the president. Moi could not do anything to stop Kenyans from electing Moi Kibaki. Number 4 is loyal fan base. Raila Odinga in this country is the only politician with followers. If he tells them tunaenda kuvuka Lake Victoria tukitembea kwa mguu, most of them will go. William Ruto is currently enjoying fanatical support in Rift Valley and a section of Central Kenya region. So if you combine these two loyal bases of Raila and Ruto, then nini naweza wa stop? Nothing can stop that team, and the system is well aware. Number 3 is also about perception. Politics is all about perception and reception, if you don't know. Perception in the term that William Ruto today is perceived to be a fighter. Raila Odinga is also perceived to command Kenyans and has a loyal fan supporters who can do anything. Raila tells them they can go to the street when called upon, they can go and pray when called upon, they can do anything. Ruto is believed to be a fighter. Most people believe that Raila Odinga became the prime minister because of William Ruto. That William Ruto had wanted that fight to continue until Raila Odinga had to sneak to go and call for peace. So now if you bring these two gentlemen together, then it's a lethal team. A team that cannot be stopped. But again, just like I say, politics is about interest. So if the interest of Raila and the interest of Ruto will not converge, because I'm seeing that it's going to be very difficult for Raila and Ruto to work together. I know it's going to be very difficult. It might not be possible, but if it will happen, then that's a sure bet for me. I don't know what you think, but if you're bumping on this video for the first time, kindly just hit the subscribe button. And again, 2 weeks ago, I also did a video about Raila Odinga and William Ruto alliance in 2022. What are some of the factors that can make that alliance a possibility, a reality? So I'm going to put that link, the link to that video, if you missed it, in the comment section here, so that after watching this one, then you can also watch that video, because it's also very interesting. I don't know what you think, and the request I always make here, if you're bumping on this video, hit the subscribe button. And again, for the subscribers, vile tunafanyanga, thumbs up if you like the video, thumbs down if you don't like the video, so that we can know how it is. But the best one is just to drop your comments below. Thank you guys, and please, may you have a good day.